The biggest shift in business is happening right now. This is the Idea to Exit podcast with Matt Ganzak.
In 2016, I stood on stage, and the first words that I said were, AI is coming for your jobs. And I said that back in 2016 to an audience of people that kind of chuckled and laughed, and they didn't really understand what it was that I was saying. That company that I was speaking at that event, I helped take them from a low 7 figures to a mid 8 figures a year in just 6 months. And I did that using technology, and it was before AI and ChatGPT and all that. But essentially what I needed them to understand was the technology that I was using, the logic-based technology at that time, in order to route leads and do things much faster and automate processes. I knew that that was going to get smarter. So the question is, where is the world going to be 5 years from now? And 2016 was 9 years ago, and it's incredible where we're at today. But I knew massive wealth was coming, because in these shifts in business and, like the beginning of the internet and the beginning of computers and personal home computers and all these huge shifts that have happened over the years, we are in one right now. The biggest shift is happening, and a couple of really crazy things are happening right now. And that's what I want to talk about, is a lot of the boomers and so forth, they're retiring. And a lot of them are closing down their businesses or exiting their business. And technology is not being deployed very well inside of their business. And a lot of these private equity firms, which I have a friend of mine that works for one of these private equity firms, that they'll buy a few companies, roll them into one, and then exit that company after a couple of months of just installing systems and deploying systems. I do some work with those guys. And it's incredible to see how that happens and understand that you can buy these businesses with SBA loans and other opportunities, some seller finance opportunities, where you might not come out of pocket very much, if no money at all. And then you install those systems, grow and scale, or maybe bring a couple companies together, roll them into one, and then exit it for a huge return. And it's incredible what's happening. And if you look historically, and I know my wife will laugh at this, but everything basically goes back to World War II. And every, transitional moment goes back all the way to World War II. Because those are who the baby boomers are. The baby boomers are the ones that were born after their parents came back from the war during wartime. And that is where they came from. And they have really defined the economy and defined many huge economical shifts in the economy over the years. And the biggest shift is happening right now in those baby boomer businesses that have been in business. In many cases, I've actually one of these companies in my family that have been in business since their grandparents or great grandparents, and it's been passed down generations. And they might be for sale at this point. There's this huge transition happening, and we as software developers, business developers, strategists, entrepreneurs, serial entrepreneurs, whatever you want to consider yourself, we have this opportunity to step in and buy these companies or, create solutions for these companies and accelerate, grow, and get a huge chunk of an exit and an opportunity. And we are living in an unprecedented time right now. It's right now. And in 10 years, I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't necessarily have that crystal ball. I knew it was coming in 2016. Like, I could see the writing on the wall. I could see the automation and all the processes and everything. And, really back then, going back to 2008 to 2014, I was running a company that we were translating into 27 different languages, and we were operating internationally in, 230 countries or just something absurd, whatever it was. But it was 27 different languages that we were translated in, and that had a good enough spread that we were able to advertise in all these different places. And it was taking us so long to automate the marketing banners and advertising and everything. We were actually one of the biggest clients of a translation company that translated our marketing materials from English to these 27 languages. And the second biggest client that they had, or maybe they were their first biggest client, was actually the US government, that translation company. So it was absolutely insane that we were on that level with that consulting firm that did translations for us. But now all those translations are automated. And that company is probably out of business in a sense because all of this can be done with AI today. But the problem that we were trying to do is we were trying to translate our winning banners because we would test them in English and put them out there, put a $500,000 ad spend behind them, A, B, C, D, E, F, G testing, whatever. And we would understand what the click-through rate would be and what, button colors were getting better clicks and what headlines were getting better clicks. And we kind of ran, congratulations, you won. So, all right, whatever. So we won't talk about that. Like, I'm sure I pissed off, most of the internet with some of my advertising. But so I'm that guy. Oh, my bad. But I'm sure that we, made a lot of people frustrated, but the click-through rate was insane. And the sign-up rate was insane. And yeah, people actually did win something. We partnered with a company that would give something away free to every single person that signed up. And there was really no value to them. And so it was a kind of a co-reg type situation. And, everyone was happy. So that was a really cool angle. That was a really standing out and being different and actually creating something that a lot of people copied us, and they were not necessarily as forthcoming with what it was that people were winning. So yeah, long-winded way of saying we needed to translate these banners in 27 different languages. So our CEO would say, figure out how to do it faster. And today it can be done faster with AI. AI could have written every single banner and translated them and did all of that for us, which it would take a team of 7 people working round the clock for about 5-6 weeks in order to do it. And it was just click, 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 click. And those processes of, just doing something mundane for hours and hours and hours on end was something that I knew there had to be a better way. And when those problems, when you have those pain points, that a change is coming. And so in 2016, I knew this change was coming. Now, looking today in 2025, what is the world going to look like in 2035? I know that I'm going to have massive exits and have really big wins. Our goal as a company is to do 50 startups per year in 2026 and have some of them exit and some of them get acquired and, have some really big wins there. But my point of saying that is I'm not going to be doing basically what I'm doing today. I know that things are going to be different. I know that the next 10 years is the biggest gold rush of opportunity. And I don't know. I am fearful of what happens after 10 years because I know that so many industries are going to be disrupted. We're disrupting the accounting world, and we're doing it from an educational point of view. Not that accountants are going to be replaced, but how you educate businesses on accounting or on taxes and so forth. I know that's going to be disrupted, and I built this startup to do that. And I know that a lot of the service-based workers like restaurants and so forth, I know that a lot of those times and, manual efforts that are going in, I know that we can disrupt that. And that's one of the platforms that we built as well. And I know that healthcare and patient safety and all of that is going to be disruptive over the next 10 years as well. And I'm invested in building into that as well. So many of these industries are going to be disruptive. Contractors and every single thing that you do and touch as a consumer is going to be disrupted over the next 10 years with the adoption of AI into the mainstream of that industry, and many of which are not doing those things very well or, are very archaic in the way that they do things today. I can tell you so many things about the healthcare industry that would absolutely scare you of the way that they're doing things, and AI is going to be at the forefront of that. And my startup is part of the forefront of that technology. We can talk about that in a future video. But essentially, what I want you thinking about today is the industries that are going to be disrupted and the network that's around you. Because it's my network. I didn't wake up one morning and say, I want to disrupt the hospital and patient safety and OR. I want to make that better because it's a really big problem. I had a doctor that was working in the OR that I've done startups with before, and we've had exits before together, reach out and say, hey, listen, it's been years since we worked together, and I have this problem. Can you possibly try to solve this problem and explain the problem? And I said, okay, well, let me find to see if there are things that already solve that problem. Because honestly, I'm very, very honest and very direct and very straightforward when it comes to this. If somebody already solved the problem and it is cost effective, just sign up for that software. Don't try to recreate the wheel. Just use it. Use what's there. Become a customer of it. Because as you become a customer of something, if it doesn't solve the problem, then we can possibly make it. But we went and we did some demos with some companies that were out there, and the cost was prohibitive. So it was a hardware cost of $1 million for a hospital like hers, and the ongoing fee, the MSA or whatever that agreement would be for a license fee, was literally $1 million a year. And she said, we can't afford $2 million up front to commit to something like this. This isn't going to solve it. I said, okay, so now we have a clear validation, because if this company is in business and they're doing business with X amount of places that can afford it, what is the addressable market of the people that cannot afford it? And we came up with that number using ChatGPT and then said, okay, that is our addressable market. That is who we can possibly serve with this. Now, can we do this more cost effective and less cost prohibitive? And the answer was yes. And we came up with the solution and we came up with the theory. We validated, we asked some people in the industry, not just her, but other people in the industry. And they said, yes, if you build that, we will deploy it. You get that LOI, which that's a letter of intent that's non-binding, that just basically says, when it is ready, we will go ahead and we will use that and we'll go forward. Now, that's going to be your ammunition for fundraising at a later date, but that is before you start building your product. And it's the most important step in that validation to understand, yeah, we got a great idea, but we're not married to the idea. We're married to the validation. We're married to the problem and the solution. We're married to how we are going to deploy and grow and scale this thing. So we developed the technology, and it's been phenomenal. It's like, I'm not going to go into detail necessarily on our clients, but we are going to sign a contract with, some really, really big names, maybe some of the biggest names, I would say. But my point of saying that is it's the process. It's the repeatable process, not to say that you're repeating the process in hospitals, but it's the repeatable process of the idea, the validation, and the build and the fundraising. And it's that process. And it's that process that we have to dial in. Zooming back out, that process of taking established businesses, finding problems, solving problems inside those businesses, increasing the validation or valuation, and exiting that business is a huge opportunity as well. So looking at a company that's being run terribly, not, having those technology pieces or whatever that might be in that business, and saying, all right, well, you're looking at a 3x of EBITDA to exit this business. Okay. We're looking at a 3x. You're doing $1 million a year, $2 million a year, whatever. This is what the cost of that business would be. This is what the cost of that exit would be. Either seller financing or, getting an SBA loan or some sort of, investor coming on board, or whatever that hybrid might look like. And we'll be talking with people that do this and literally do exactly this. in an upcoming podcast. But my point of that is that's an opportunity to have a repeatable process where you come in and install processes and install AI, solve problems, and maybe that valuation goes from a 3x to a 6x or a 9x or a 10x by installing and modernizing that business. And then that acquisition could have been a $6 million on paper acquisition cost. You don't have to come out of pocket $6 million for that, but you'd be able to structure something, build a better process, and you can scale and repeat. And do so by even bringing a couple other businesses in, fold them together into one company. And again, I'm not the expert in that. I definitely recommend hiring the experts for that and hiring experts for everything, whether it be CPAs or lawyers or all those people. I'll definitely give that disclosure on that. And you have to hire experts for those pieces. However, the ChatGPT angle of being able to learn the right questions to ask to those professionals are leveraging a technology to educate yourself in a way that you are smart to be able to ask the right questions. And that's really where I like using these tools is I ask ChatGPT the right questions. And by asking the right questions, I get better answers. And wielding that tool by asking smart, intelligent questions, and literally you can even use the tool to teach you how to ask the right questions. So even if you don't know how to ask the right question, you can ask it how to ask the right question to generate a question in order to put right back into it in order to get the right response. So that is the power of the technology that we have today in doing analysis, research, and all of that, and understanding what the competitive landscape looks like and what those opportunities might look like if you accomplish XYZ. And then ask it, how do we go from A to B lightning fast? Like cut out all the systems, cut out all the, BS and nonsense. Give me the exact steps to go from A to B in hours and not months. And it will tell you exactly what to do. So I don't care what it is. Like if your goal is to build something to which there are federal or state grants that are available, ask it, what grants are available? If I were to do XYZ and create XYZ, how would I qualify for XYZ grant? And what are the exact steps and what are the timelines in order to achieve that grant? Because oftentimes the breakout isn't always just, the sales or that market validation. It could be getting into programs that open up grant opportunities in order to grow and scale a business and create that breakout success. So if you're looking at your bank account and saying, okay, I have enough money to build the product. I can use Loadable, Replit, whatever, build a prototype, use some hours of development to take it from a prototype to production ready MVP by securing it, taking out of the mono repo, which, these platforms do program in a mono repo, by the way, which means that everything is in one file, which is absolutely insane. So typically we use those apps. And then one of the first things that we do is we harden security, which often they'll take the secret passwords that are to your database and all that, and they'll program it right into the code. Absolutely terrible. That's a great way to get hacked. So we'll take that out and we'll harden the security. We'll change it from that mono repo to having our front end, back end APIs to connect, and then we'll deploy the app. Literally what I just told you is a few weeks to about a month of work, but we can take it from the AI, which takes hours to build. And also another thing to understand about those AI builders, the more prompts that you create in order to create that prototype, the more times you prompt it, the more tech debt it's creating inside of that application. And tech debt is bad because it's going to make your page load bad or load slow, and it's going to create issues. It's going to create vulnerabilities. It's going to create so many problems. So I like to prompt it the fewest times possible. I like to have the first prompt and maybe a tweak or two to take it from there, separate the front end from the back end, do the authentication and do all of the security pieces manually, using developers and so forth. And then again, we use, Cursor and other platforms like that to help do it a little bit faster and, do some of that manual work, but assisted by AI, not necessarily building everything with AI. And then we get it to market as fast as possible. But getting something to market and getting the first sale oftentimes is not the first big jump that you have. The first big jump is how to position your product differently, how to think differently, and leveraging these tools in order to think differently and move differently and find that blue ocean, which, again, in this podcast, I'm going to talk a lot about blue ocean. I definitely recommend reading Blue Ocean Theory, an incredible book to think about how a blue ocean and a red ocean would operate. And oftentimes, again, I have about 10 people that sign up every single day on our website that, want us to help validate their idea or take a look at what it is that they're doing and help come up with solutions in order to solve problems. And when we do that, and I talk to people, the more I talk to people, the more I realize people are all too often thinking about that red ocean and just attracted to the red ocean. They don't know they're attracted to the red ocean because they look and say, hypothetically, oh, MailChimp just got acquired by Intuit for, billions of dollars. And I need to make the next email marketing software. But the email marketing software needs to do the landing pages and SMS and this and that. And that's the biggest red ocean there possibly is. Like, you don't need to go and be the next widget, trinket, whatever. You need to think about the blue ocean, the market maker, the category king, the change. These are literally all books that are great that I'm just mentioning. But you need to think in that way and think, where is the blue ocean and where is the path of least friction? And how do we get towards that in order to become that market maker or become that blue ocean opportunity and not get bogged down in the red ocean where the sharks have already chomped everything up and maybe there's one fish swimming around. And if you acquire that one fish, it's not going to help your business. So I'm always looking for the different way to think. And I'm using ChatGPT to think differently and to approach my thinking differently and approach my approach differently. And the way of thinking that way to find those market gaps is the success that you'll have in your ideation, your validation, and that first hit of traction, that first hit of your biggest win that becomes in 3 years when you look back and say, the biggest thing that created our momentum was that defining moment. And oftentimes we'll go out, if I were to use a fishing analogy, if you go out fishing in your startup and you go out with one fishing pole, chances are you're not going to hit the big one. But if you go out with 10 fishing poles or 20 fishing poles on the same boat, you throw a bunch of different baits out there and see what hits. No, I don't always talk about, fishing and things like that. But I think it's a good, visualization to understand that we go out in the boat and I throw 10 lines out. And then we look at the data as it comes back in to understand, okay, this kind of work, that kind of work, this kind of work, that kind of work, eliminate what was not working, double down on what was working, and do a little better the next time. And then we continue to get better and better and better to the point that we look back 3 years and say, you know what? It was that one defining moment where we went out and we threw that one bait out there and we did something a little different than what we usually do. And that was our breakout moment. That was our breakthrough opportunity to create that traction and create that momentum that forever changed our startup and our business. So again, it's not always just about talking about startups here. I want to talk about existing businesses as well, because you might be at that glass ceiling. And I'll always say glass ceiling because there's no brick ceiling. There's no way to not break through. And when you look up, there might be a little glare on that glass ceiling to say it might be hard to break through that. But if you have the right plan and you have the right momentum that you're moving towards that plan and not getting distracted by, ooh, shiny object, ooh, shiny object, ooh, piece of candy. You're not getting distracted. You're focused on A to B. B is on the other side of that glass ceiling. And if you can make that breakthrough, if you can make that win, that opportunity is phenomenal for you, because you're going to continue to have glass ceilings. And one of my partners in one of my startups a while back said, there's a lot that we don't know. And the things that we don't know are the people holding baseball bats that are going to hit us along the way. And we're going to get hit by a lot of baseball bats as we go forward. And not moving forward or trying to be analytical of how we navigate the gauntlet or how we move around the gauntlet is going to hold us back from having our success. We just have to move. And I think that's one of the ideas that I have and one of the thought processes that I have. We just have to move. And it doesn't matter how we move. We just have to move. And I think a lot of businesses right now are at a place where they're saying, hey, advertising doesn't work for our business. Facebook ads don't work for our business. I've heard that so many times. Facebook ads don't work. Just move and ask ChatGPT, hey, this isn't working. How do we do this differently? And how do we test this differently? So if you have a $100 ad budget, put $100 a day towards a different approach and see if it connects. After 3-4 days, if you spend $300-$400, which I think is phenomenal today that we have that capability. And going back to, my radio days, and I used to do billboards and TV advertising and all of that, our commitments were $10,000 to $20,000. And if we committed $10,000 to $20,000 to something, me as the advertiser, I would never get that client to come back ever again if I was unable to make traction for them. So we needed to make sure that, we used our knowledge of the market in order to make that win for them. But I think it's incredible today that you can wake up in the morning, have an idea, validate that idea, and before you go to bed at night, maybe even take a nap at midday while it's live, and you could literally go to bed at night knowing the answer to the question. Like, your question is, if I do something a little differently, if I position this a little differently, if I move at this a little bit differently, I will have a different outcome. And that will equal, X different leads, X different sales, whatever. We will beat our control. And back in 2008 to 2014, when I was running advertising for them, each one of our hypotheses was about a $50,000 minimum commitment. And today, I think it's phenomenal that we have the ability to spend a fraction of that, $500 or even $100, and get some sort of answer. Now, it might not be a statistically definitive answer, but we can get an answer to say, hey, we got more clicks from that than that, or we got more leads from that than that. We need to keep running it and get some definitive answers after we spend a little bit more and get a little bit more statistical data in order to make a smarter decision. But $500 goes so much further. Now, back then, in the beginning of advertising on Google Ads and the beginning of Facebook ads, which it was, what they call it, Facebook Marketplace or whatever that, FBX is what they called it. Sorry. They called it FBX back then. And it was incredible getting penny clicks and, having things get activity like for pennies. Absolutely insane back then. But again, at this point, if you're getting 50 cents a click, 75 cents, even $1 a click, if you have that highly refined targeted market, and you're able to get some data from $100 spent. And it's incredible. But back then, we had to make a $10,000, a $20,000 commitment to the FBX network through one of our media buying partners that allowed us to advertise through their account, and they would set it up and advertise for us. And it was great. I mean, it was a really great experience. And Google Ads worked for us a lot better back then. And we were able to find some different markets and fell into some markets. But when you're spending $1 million a month in advertising, you can kind of trip and fall over things that, kind of would tell you something, and essentially $500 won't necessarily give you the data feedback to say, all right, we need to double down on this and absolutely go on it. My point of saying this is using ChatGPT and using these tools that are available to think differently, to approach something differently. And I don't mean to use Apple's trademark. Please, forgive me, Apple. But think differently. Think differently and use these tools. Force them to make you think differently. And oftentimes I find myself talking to ChatGPT, whether it's talking to it or typing into it, and I make it become critical. I ask it to become critical. I say, listen, you're agreeing with me too much. You're just saying everything is great. Be critical. Like, I don't want to hear your sunshine and, rainbows and daisies. I want you to be critical. Break this down. Destroy me. Destroy my idea. Break me down. And Grok on the unhinged mode is really great at that. So if you have Grok and just ask it to go in unhinged mode, and I did ask it, can you just always be unhinged? And it said yes, but each time I open it, I need to ask it to be unhinged. Like, just lay into me, which I think is phenomenal. Like, Elon, hats off for that. It's phenomenal because I'm able to get critical feedback because it's the pressure. And I'm not going to use the cheesy comments, but it is... Pressure makes diamonds. I can't stand that. It kind of makes me like hairs on the back of my neck standing up. It makes me cringe. But it is pressure. And it's the pressure of using these tools and the pressure of pushing the tool to do better, to be better and be critical. And it's the pressure that we use these tools in that creates the answers and the prompts that it'll create to create better visions and better direction. And then we move on that, we validate, we advertise, we just move fast. Again, I talked about in the last podcast the Neanderthals that I've worked with. And I'm going to bring these guys up a lot because, people that absolutely are just sticks and stones and, seeing fire for the first time and being like, I can make a giant bonfire. I'm not sure if I can do a Neanderthal voice very well, but it's those people that inspire me. It's those people that watching them move on something to seeing fire for the first time and just saying, we just need to press it. Just press down on the gas pedal. Like, advertising is our gasoline. We're just going to pour it on the fire and we're just going to go. And we'll figure out the problem later. Literally, I was one of these people. I used to write all their emails, do all their landing pages, do all their marketing content, do all their sales copy, do all their strategy, do all their advertising, do literally everything, all the automation, all the CRM, all the back end and everything. And there were so many times that, hey, going live on this webinar, yada, yada, yada. And I'm watching the webinar live. I would, not actually be there. And I'm watching the webinar and they're saying, like, in the beginning of the webinar, at the end of this, I'm going to give you the opportunity to buy this. And I'm thinking to myself, I never built that page. I didn't even, we don't even have that for sale. Like, you are doing a 1-hour webinar and you are going to pitch this at the end of that webinar, and I don't even have the page. It doesn't even exist. So during that hour, timer's on the clock. I know in 45 minutes, I'm going to get a text message while that person is doing the live webinar and say, hey, where's this page? What's the link to this page to sell this thing of which isn't even built yet? Nothing is created, just an idea that we talked about in a meeting the day before, and a post goes out like, hey, doing a live webinar tomorrow where we're going to talk about XYZ. And again, Neanderthal finding fire for the first time. Like, all you have to do is have a good headline, a good hook, understand your core target avatar of who you're selling to, what the problem, what the solution is. Again, just finding fire for the first time. And saying, hey, sign up for this thing. Goes out on the page. They sign up. I have no idea what it is that's going to be sold. So I'm watching a live webinar and I know that the timer is on. In 45 minutes, I'm going to get a text. Hey, what was that link, by the way? So I start building out the pages. I start building out the product. I start building out the login. I start building out the fulfillment. I build out the email sequence. I build out the back end. I, do all the tags and, get it all set up and ready to go. Get the URL ready, hit publish. And just like that, the text message comes in. Hey, what was that URL again that we're promoting, that thing that we talked about yesterday? Oh, here it is. Pushes it out. The webinar I'm talking about, we made $200,000 on that webinar. We made $200,000 on that webinar that we didn't even have a product for. We had nothing ready to go. And in that hour, it took a couple hours after that of follow up and answering questions and going through the process and explaining, this is a live thing and it's going to roll out and then you're going to have unlimited access and yada, 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 yada. So there was a lot of the fulfillment side that was still kind of in the works. So we had some answers and questions and had needed answers. But yeah, we ended up converting $200,000 in revenue from that webinar. And I did it another time while I was evacuating from a hurricane. Literally, I was watching on the news. I live in Southwest Florida, and I'm watching on the news. And when, what's his name? The guy from Weather Channel. Jim Cantori. When Jim Cantori is outside your neighborhood in Naples, Florida, and saying, we're here in Naples, Florida, and it looks like it's going to hit right here. It's time to get out. It's time to leave. If they are saying on the Weather Channel, your neighborhood, it's a hurricane, a Cat 4 hurricane is going to hit directly. It's going to be devastating. And Jim Cantori is outside of your neighborhood talking. It's time to go. So yeah, we packed up. Girlfriend at the time, I think maybe fiance. We've been married now for 7 years. But yeah, we're like, okay, it's time to go. And we start packing up. And it was like, yeah, but we had to launch this webinar. We promised people that we were going to launch this webinar on X date. I was like, okay, so all that means is my laptop is going to be in the front seat and I'm going to drive because it's absolute Mad Max chaos out here. And they blocked off both sides of the interstate. So we were actually going down the wrong way of the interstate to evacuate and get out the night before the hurricane would hit. And my fiance, wife now, but she was in the front seat and I'm literally telling her what to click and how to build a landing page and how to build a sales page and how to put the webinar together and how to do all these things. And we were tethered to my phone using, cell service to have internet on the laptop in order to build it and put it together. So as we're evacuating, we were building landing pages and sales pages and fulfillment and follow-up and webinars and marketing and all the things that we needed to build. And we hit publish and we hit go live literally as we were evacuating a hurricane. We were in the car evacuating a hurricane. We launched that webinar and we ended up making whatever the number was, 150,000 on the first day and continued to make more money from there. And the hurricane did hit and it was devastating and we had 3 trees down on our house and I'm glad we left. But my point of saying that is it's working with these people that just move. They are so inspiring. These people that just move, they make no excuses. Whatever it takes, we just move. And the analysis paralysis and those people that are like, we need better systems and we need to focus on our systems and we don't have our systems in place. Yeah, sure. Like lead to follow up to close, that is a system. But just fix it. Fix it. You have data. We're sending people in. We're getting leads. Just fix it. Fix it the fastest as physically possible. Fix it. Get more sales. 1 call closes. Fix it. Just get it fixed. But the follow-up or the automation or these other pieces, the focus needs to be on just moving. Just move. And it's those people that have inspired me. And it's those people that have made me wield the tools that we have available to us, like ChatGPT, like these AI tools, to just move. And I talk to 10 companies a day, and I allocate that time to, have 15-minute conversations with 10 companies a day. And the biggest problem that I see is, again, they don't have the problem, solution, and target avatar, and then they aren't thinking about their moat, and they're not thinking about their competition, and they're not thinking about those pieces. But the other piece to it is they're not moving. They're just not moving. Like, just move. Social media is the most incredible thing that we have today. The ability to take what's in every one of our pockets, typically a phone, and create content. And I'm not talking about making the most highly produced content. I'm not talking about, anything that's over the top. I'm talking about just opening your phone and understanding what the problem solution, and if they don't decide to work with you, what are they doing otherwise? Being able to communicate that on social media is the most incredible thing today. And so many business owners are not doing it well. And the problem is they are not confident, or they're thinking about systems, or thinking about overproduced content like, we need Steven Spielberg and George Lucas to come in here and create us an ad. You're ridiculous. Some of the best performing ads that I have ever ran to date have been selfie videos. And we've tested them against overproduced content, and the selfie videos end up working. Just talk to people. Just, if somebody were in front of you and they were your target ideal customer profile, and you had 30 seconds to tell them why your product is better, why they need to take action, in, again, understanding that the other person is selfish. The other person that you're talking to says, what's in it for me? What's the benefit to me? And if your landing page isn't speaking to that, if your messaging isn't speaking to that, you're going to continue to fail. So if you show me your landing page, and I'll do this for every single person listening, if you show me your landing page and it is not directly speaking to the problem solution and the selfishness of the person that's reading the top of your landing page, I know that, you might eventually get to the point, but right up top, if the first sentence isn't keying in on their selfishness of what's in it for them, your page is not going to convert. Your page is not going to convert as well as it should be. And this is the psychology of how somebody makes a transaction, is what's in it for me. First thing that they need to see. The next question they ask is this trusted? Can I trust these people? Again, you need to show that to them immediately. Next thing is, who else is using this and what results are they getting? That needs to be the next thing. Okay. Now I'm thinking maybe this is something I'm interested in doing. Psychologically, they've already made a buying decision. But I still have some questions. How do you do this? Is this going to take a lot of time? Is this going to be hard? Is this going to take my time away from me? And then that's kind of your features and the speed and the ease of use and those things that you need to divulge at that point. Okay. So now I believe that this is for me. Other people like me are seeing some results, and I trust these guys. I still have some questions, though. Those questions have not quite been answered. That's an FAQ at the bottom. You can have some questions, and as long as you structure those questions, that they're answering those questions, you'll get a response. And each step along the process, you're encouraging them to take that offer. And the offer could be get started for free. That offer could be, discovery call. That offer could be whatever it is that the offer is. But again, it all starts with them. And, I really like Simon Sinek. I think Simon Sinek is like one of the smartest people in the space. But the start with why, you can kind of twist it to why they would connect to your product, but why I do it, nobody cares. Nobody cares why you started your business. They don't care, at least not up front. They've already made a buying decision by the time that you've said why you did it. But on the other sense is why they need to do it is important. So yeah, start with why. Great book. But I believe everyone is selfish. And I market and I position and I move with that selfishness in mind, to understand that the person that's looking at my page or listening to my voice, they're selfish and they are just in it for themselves. People want easy, they want faster, they want cheaper, they want stronger, they want better. Keying in on, if you sell something that is keying in on insecurities or fears or things like that, key in on it, twist the knife, and then show them you can continue going this way or you can come our way and it's going to make XYZ of a difference. And that's the way that I think. That's the way that I train my ChatGPT. And that's the way that we get ridiculous conversions. That's everybody has access to Google ads, Facebook ads, social media. Everyone has an account. Everyone has a phone. Everyone has the ability to spend a couple $100s in ads. Everybody has the same thing. We all have the same tools, but it's how those tools are used. And it's how we twist the offer or twist the opportunity or twist the market positioning that makes the breakout success, that takes your cost per click from $5 to $1, that makes your, cost per lead from $50 to $10, or changes your cost per sale from, $500 down to $50 or $100. And then that's what makes a true repeatable process that you can go and grow and scale a business based upon that thing. So no, Facebook ads aren't going to work if you continue to be vanilla. If you continue to vanilla advertise, and if you're asking ChatGPT, hey, make me an ad that's selling this widget, trinket, or t-shirt, or whatever it is that you're selling, make me an ad that'll sell this. And it's not keying in on them. And it's not keying in on their desires and their fears and their desire and all those things that drive people or what keep people up at night or whatever those problems are. And it's those things that I train my ChatGPT on to say, this is how we move. This is how we sell. This is how we position our opportunity. And I'm not selling features. I am selling desires, results, goals, dreams, lifestyle. Those are the things that I'm selling. I'm selling the us versus them. Us versus them. It's one of the greatest selling points that you can ever have is there's them and there's us. Are you part of us or are you part of them? I don't care what you're selling. There's always an us versus them. We do things differently. Come join our community. Come join our world because this is us and this is what we stand for. And if you stand for that and you stand for moving and you stand for whatever it is that their desire is, then you belong with us and you don't belong with them. I mean, come on now. This is how I've advertised. This is how I move. This is how I've been writing my ad copy. This is how I absolutely destroy my competition. And this is how I gain market traction, is forcing my tools to think differently, to move faster, better, stronger, harder. It's a Daft Punk song. So in the end, I want you to be inspired today. I want you to be inspired to move differently, to make that change in how we use our tools and how we move towards what it is that we want to accomplish. So whether you're, acquiring businesses and finding a different way to win and grow and scale using the exit of the baby boomers and the new future of AI and this, adaptation of this new technology, or you're coming up with the idea and you're getting that move and getting that traction and getting that movement, or you already have a business and you're struggling to find that traction and struggling to find that breakout success, that is what I position with you today. Force your ChatGPT, force your AI to think differently, to move differently, to be critical, and to absolutely make a difference today. So thank you so much for listening. Be sure to subscribe. This is the Idea to Exit podcast. We're going to keep doing this. And again, it's a lot of me talking right now, but I promise we have a lot of people that have a lot of great things to talk about. Those people are coming on board literally. I'm gonna line up the first one in the next couple of days. We're gonna start recording some awesome stuff for you guys. So thank you so much. Subscribe, and I really look forward to hearing about those wins that you guys have. And you can always connect, mattganzak.com. Always connect with me. Awesome things there to connect on. They're really cool opportunities depending on where you're at in your business. I'd love to hear from you. So yeah, thank you so much. Jump on, and good things coming. Good things coming. Thank you so much. We'll see you on the next one.